Welcome to part 7 of the Ableton Live sound design bassline tutorials. I'm Tom Cosm, and today we're going to work on a kind of a progressive trance bassline, but we're going to get into using a bit of FM synthesis, frequency modulated synthesis. We're going to dabble into it. I'm going to explain a little bit about how this works, and we're going to try and recreate the sound of an actual bass guitar plugged into an amp. We're going to try, we're not going to get it perfect, but we're going to get a really nice kind of organic sound. So I wanted to start by just quickly giving a rundown, give you a visual idea of what's happening when we're using frequency modulated synthesis. And we're going to be using the operator because it has a fantastic section where we can do this frequency modulated stuff. Now, what we've been doing most of these videos is if we go over here into this info panel, the global panel, these are our algorithms. So our algorithms are defining what happens with these four separate little entities here. For example, if we choose this one at the end, this means that all, they've given them colors here, all of this A, B, C, D, they're all getting mixed out. They're getting mixed out the output as one waveform, the two waveforms mixed together to form one. And so just to give you an idea, let's play a sine wave. I've just got a little exoscope thing up here, which is really handy. There's a very simple waveform. Take it up an octave. And you can see it's a pure sine. Here's our sine, nice and pure. If we choose a square wave, for example, it's a square wave, and here's a saw wave. Might as well do a triangle for fun. And here's our white noise. So let's go back to the sine. Let's go back to the sine wave here. Now, if we were to bring in the level of another sine wave here, this sine wave is exactly the same pitch as the original one. We'll bring it in. You see that the amplitude or the volume or the waveform increases double because it's got two of the same things happening at the same time. Very cool. If we change this second waveform to, say, a square, you can see the two mixed together, so they join together to form one waveform. Now that's usual kind of additive, subtractive synthesis styles, is having those waveforms mixed. We're going to talk about different ways we can actually move these or route these operators to each other. Now the most common one, if we go over to the far left here, you can see this chains them all up in succession from top to bottom. What this means is that this one modulates this one modulates this one, and this one modulates this one. Now, by modulate, I mean these waveforms, you don't necessarily hear them. They imprint themselves, they give themselves a snapshot onto what the original waveform is. Now, the best way I can explain this is by to show you how it works. So I'm going to play an I'm going to play a note, perfect sine wave, and we're going to change this one to a sine wave. We're going to now mix this in by bringing the level up. So now this sine wave is getting fed into this sine wave. It's not going to look too exciting to start with. And that's to give you an idea. If I change the coarse value of the sine wave so it's very, very, very high, I'll do it with this one first so we can see what that would look like. I'll bring it up really high, very high. So we've got this really, really compressed waveform which is making the pitch really high. Let's do that with this one. Go back to our original sine wave. Let's go back to this one. Let's change it really high. And let's bring the level up and have a look and see what happens to this waveform. You can see how that really high-pitched waveform, that really high-pitched sine wave, is actually moving this waveform up and down at little increments, like it was compressed before, but it's actually following this line, the original sine wave. It's following the line and then doing that to it. We can bring these up higher. Lots of compression. Bring the volume up. It's a bit gnarly. And you can hear this is actually going up the harmonic series. So that's the kind of thing we get. Now, of course, what we can also do is we can also modulate this second one with this third one. So we're kind of going up another notch. So I'll leave it here for now. Let's put the third one up very, very high, and let's bring the level up on that and have a look. You see how now that third one is imprinting itself on the second one, and the second one is imprinting itself on the first one. So you can get really, really complex shapes. Now these are really good if you want to, if you think about something like a bass guitar, somebody's slapping it, someone's plucking it, so the string, when it's actually vibrating back and forth, you've got a nice steady tone. But that initial pluck, a lot's happening. There's a lot of flicking backwards and forwards on that string, and so that's the kind of thing we're going to try and recreate with this FM stuff, because it means that we can make complex kind of hits to the original vibrating string, so to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and try and do this right now. I'm just going to bring all of these back down to 1 for us, and we'll bring the levels down to infinity. So we're back to our normal sine wave. Let's go down an octave. That's a nice note. Now first thing we can do is let's bring the level up of this. We've just got another sine wave which is exactly the same, but it's going to modulate it. And you can hear we kind of get a square wave happening, a saw wave sound happening. Very good. Now the great thing about this this operator is we can actually add an envelope to the amplitude of this waveform. Now, even though we're adding an envelope to the amplitude, because the amplitude is actually affecting the sound, the tonality, the timbre of the original sine wave, this envelope is actually going to start creating specific sounds. For example, if I make the attack quite long and push a note, so it's slowly increasing this volume, but it's actually changing the sound, it's changing the waveform for us. We can do it in the opposite direction. So if we bring the decay time down, so we've kind of already got this nice kind of poppy sound going on. Very cool. Let's bring the level up a bit more. Now what we can do is we can modulate the second waveform with the third one. You can hear we're getting a kind of a well, it's not that organic, but we're getting a kind of a guitar slap sound. Very stringy sounding. And just like before, we can change the decay time of the envelope and bring the sustain time right down. We can change this so we even get a more of a click. Very good, and now what we can do is we can bring the level of the top one up. What we can do is we can click fixed here, so instead of actually following the notes that are playing, it's actually going to play a particular frequency which we define here. And the reason I've done this is just so we can get a real kind of snap, a really quick snap right at the top. This is just to give it a bit of a flick. So again, I'm going to bring the envelope down, give it a very short decay time, bring the level up. Just so we've got that nice click. And remember, we've only used sine waves here, but we've got this really complex sound. Very cool. So that's my first attempt ever really at explaining FM synthesis. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go in and we're going to put some notes in with this new bass sound we've created. So let's just insert a MIDI clip. We'll drag this across, open it up. Again, I've got my kick, snare, and my hi-hat here just so we can put some notes in. I've also got a synth, which is just a simple saw wave, which is just playing a chord, which is just nice, kind of gives it a nice trancey feeling. So, and that's in G, so I'm going to go into this MIDI clip. Let's go down and let's put in some notes. This is a very standard kind of progressive psytrance pattern. That's not the pattern. Where are we here? Now the cool thing we can do here is with the velocities of these notes, we can attach them now to the levels of these various operators or oscillators that are outputting which are modulating each other. So if we go into our global shell over here, we can say velocity, let's send the velocity to oscillator B, volume of oscillator B, which of course changes the intensity. So that's very cool. And remember that these velocities are relative to what the actual setting is set at. So we need to put this up to the top, and then we need to go into the velocities and drag these down to a level that we are happy with. So sorry, just select all and I'll drag these down. Oops, one thing I forgot to do was if we go over to the global shell again, we have to turn the amount up. Keep doing that. But the amount is how much of this velocity is applied to this volume B. So you can see now we've got none. So we're just getting that nice sine wave. If we open up this thing again. But as we move these velocities up, select them all and drag them up. And of course we can select now individual notes to have that frequency modulation on them. Might make two notes here. Very cool, I'm liking how that's sounding. I'm just going to play with the level of this one a wee bit. We can also, let's see what happens if we attach the velocity to the volume of C as well. This could be fun. Bring the amount up. Remember we've got to bring C up so it's relative. Sounding pretty good. I'm just going to add in an EQ8 after here, and we can boost some frequencies. And my usual trick, which I like to do, I'll do this quickly because I've explained it in previous videos. Add a filter delay. Here's our 3 delay chains. Take out the middle one, take off the sync on both of them, and let's drag them all down to 1 millisecond. And let's drag one up a bit. And I reckon what would sound good here would be a little bit of reverb. It's a nice kind of poppy bass line. So let's insert a return track here. And we will chuck in a reverb like so. And let's send the operator to the reverb. But one thing we should do is we should put a EQ before the reverb in this return channel. An EQ8. Make it a high pass, just so we don't reverb the bass. So that reverb is way too much. I'm going to turn the high cut off. I'm actually going to bring the size down very, very small. So this is kind of how big it is, how large the room is, that kind of thing. And bring the decay time down as well. I might turn the high cut back on actually. This is the filter of... actually no, let's do it over on the EQ8. So I'm going to select this pole, I'm going to turn it into a low pass and bring this down. Going to go back into this operator. I'm going to bring these levels down a wee bit. They're a bit too much. And we'll just boost those frequencies up a little bit here. Going to change the bandpass on these delay chains a bit. Sure, I'm liking that reverb. Let's change the size up. Let's see how that sounds. Bring it up to around about 100. Might even sound good with some kind of delay, I think. Let's add another filter delay on this EQ8. And let's just play around very subtle delays. We can bring the volume down on each chain. We don't need this one. This is just the overall volume, kind of the dryness. So this is on 3/16 notes, this is on 5/16 notes. It's creating kind of a nice echo effect. I'm going to take this synth and just bring it down an octave. Put a filter on it, just getting carried away. Let's go back to this delay. Here's our bandpass filters for each delay. So each time it delays, it gets cut a bit by this filter. Let's bring these up a bit, see what happens. Very cool, and we'll just quickly duplicate this pattern we've got here, and let's take out the hi-hat. It's getting a bit annoying, and let's change these notes to boom, boom, like that. Remember, we've got to change these velocities. It's just selecting, holding down the command key, and dragging down. Very fun. So that's how we've created that bassline. A nice kind of, again, generic proggy Psy bassline. Again, using FM synthesis. I think as my videos get on, I'm going to get better at explaining it. It's quite a mindfuck because you can't really explain what's happening because you've got such complex things. The ways that they modulate each other are not kind of standard. So I will get more into those, I think, as the rest of these design series go on. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of it. TomCosm.com. Thank you.